Albuquerque Mayor Richard Berry is pushing for a new bus rapid transit along Central Avenue. I'm sure you've read about this. Now, many business owners along the route have raised concerns about the plan, and last week we learned that some Nob Hill business owners are seeking to recall, if you can believe this, Councilor Pat Davis, because they believe he is not listening to their concerns on this issue. And Mr. Davis took office just in December. Stephen, we've talked about this on the air here. I have to imagine that this had to happen at some point. There had to be a rise in both enthusiasm, but then also for not so enthusiastic about this. And now that we have some cards on the table and businesses are showing their displeasure about this, what's the nature of the fight as you see it now? What's the problem here?
Well, I mean, I think businesses along Central have legitimate concerns about how, what basically is going to happen is you're going to have buses going back and forth along Central Street in a dedicated lane in the middle of the street. And these will be big buses. Instead of buses going every 15 minutes, they're going to be going every 7 or 8 minutes, which means if you're in Nob Hill, it's like every 3 or 4 minutes a big bus is going to go by. Plus, you're going to have the whole area redone because they've got to take out the center medium and put in these bus lanes.
And platforms to wait.
So the business owners are saying, what's in it for me?
Right.
The city is saying this is going to increase pedestrian traffic, shopping, walkability, make it more useful for all business owners. The business owners are saying, how so? And when I looked at the city's website, they don't make their case. I mean, I think the business owners are making a legitimate argument. They're saying, well, how is this really going to increase shopping in Nob Hill or walking in Nob Hill or walking and shopping in the downtown area? The city has yet to make its case. Now, it may be able to make its case. And I do give Mayor Berry some credit. I mean, he's going after $80 million in federal money. That would help New Mexico's economy. If it makes sense, it's going to be mostly funded by the feds. So there's something to this, but I think it's still up in the air about whether it makes sense. And I think the timing of it's bad because a lot of these Nob Hill businesses are on the edge, the same in the downtown area. Redoing those two areas, that's going to be a real downturn for those businesses.
And it's not like, you can take, like, Antoinette, it's like replacing sewer lines. We're talking major construction here. We're talking about 2 lanes in the middle of Central Avenue and also redoing the sidewalks in Nob Hill, widening those to 10 feet so they can be more, seating friendly and all that kind of thing. Disruption's not even the beginning of the problem.
It's a real question about whether these businesses that are really, have small margins, a lot of them, they're small businesses, whether they'd survive the construction. And so you finish and then nothing's there anymore. This is a really classic case. You talked about the $80 million, the 80% paid by the federal government and huge amount of money, but sometimes those federal dollars are very, very tempting and being able to leverage them. But it would have been good to really work with the community first and see what it needs, and maybe to be flexible. I mean, we talked about Lomas as an alternate possibility. Right. Was that even explored? Did they do any studies about that? Right. So there's process issues that maybe could have come up with a better plan that might have been better for Albuquerque.
Interesting. Urban ABQ that you know about here in Albuquerque, they have a Facebook page. They've had some rousing threads on their Facebook page about this very issue because they're right in the heart of this. And one of the things you see, Lieutenant Governor, that comes up a lot in this is folks would feel better about this if it was more than just a central plan, like mainly how about a north-south plan? Some kind of transit for north-south so that central idea would work even better as part of a holistic plan. The folks that are pro-transit say, we'll get to that later. Is that good enough for people? Is it say we'll get to it later?
I don't think it is. And to Antoinette's point, she and I both live nearby in the area. And Steve's point, the fragile nature of the businesses, there's already been a lot of closures over on Nob Hill. And for lease signs up, and when you see more of that, and they just won't survive a year or 2 year of construction. But it does remind me of moving the walk belt at the airport, which is kind of the belt to nowhere.
Right.
Here and there. It's a very similar plan, and Albuquerque, regrettably, I think, has a history of looking at federal dollars, bringing them in, and creating somewhat of a tar baby, because the next phase, and with what's happening with the tax structure, now that the hold harmless money's gone away, we're going to have a $10 million deficit this year, we're going to have a $17 million deficit next year. Where is the money going to be for sustainability or for expansion, which is the point? Let's make it take them someplace besides east and west on Central. Let's make it something that creates a route to somewhere.
Right, exactly. Rob, let me ask you a question about this. Has the administration and those who support this idea gone too far on this idea of Central being the string of pearls that's suddenly going to pop up out of the ground at every transit
About
stop?
one pearl.
About one
Just
pearl,
throw
right,
one.
exactly. There's a lot of other things that
That'd be a
have to
good
happen to make
start.
that happen. But there is good evidence that things can happen when you talk about development, when you talk about rapid transit. It has been shown to happen in other cities. That's what the mayor wants us to do here. He's thinking 20 years down the road. Is he wrong to plan so far down the road?
Here's my perspective of this, and I don't live in Albuquerque, I live in Santa Fe, so I can take a look at this with a little bit of distance. From a political standpoint, I think one of the problems here is, I mean, right now it's a big problem because you don't have buy-in from a lot of businesses. This isn't just 3 or 4 businesses who are
big
complaining.
list.
Anytime
Yeah.
you're going to do any kind of major construction, you're going to have people complaining. But I think it's up to 33 businesses, and it runs the gamut. I mean, you've got some restaurants, you've got the Guild, which is normally you would think that this is sort of artsy type people would be totally on board with this, but it's divided. The political problem is this: is now that you've got 33 businesses who have come out and said, we don't want this, and now they're going after Pat Davis. Politically, once those lines are drawn, it's really hard to get people to cross those lines, and because now it seems to be a pitched battle between the people who don't want this, and they are stuck on this, or they've made up their mind on this, and then you've got the city government that says, well, let's try something different, and you can say to a certain extent, well, Albuquerque needs some revitalization. We talk about economic revitalization here on this panel a lot, but it also does give you the sense that it's kind of an uncomfortable sense that it's coming from up top, from top to bottom, saying, we know what's best for you and your business. And if you're a business person, a small business person, you are barely making it. I mean, it's really easy to say, well, trust us on this one. You're like, well, trust us? I may not be able to pay my bills. I may not be able to keep my business in business 6 months from now or 8 months from now. So from an outsider's perspective, I think this has gone down the wrong path.
Stephen, picking up on Rob's point there, one of the things that's interesting is the administration says there might be some money available to abate the harm that might be happening. And my question on that is, who gets to decide who gets what and how much and by when? Classically, getting paid for the government's not exactly a 2-week deal, if you follow me here. So that's an interesting point there too. But then on the other side of it as well, millennials are not buying cars. They're not driving. They're moving to cities that have public transportation like Denver and other places. Why can't we do that? Why not here as well? The fundamental question, why can't we do that here for millennials?
Well, I mean, I think I think you're voicing the mayor's idea. I mean, I think the idea is to appeal to millennials, to make Nob Hill and downtown more accessible, and to increase traffic there, and that's the point. But the question is, will this actually do it? I mean, we already have buses going up and down Central, so there's going to be a cost to doing all this, $100 million. There's going to be a cost to all these businesses. And what's the benefit, right? And I think what's lacking so far, and I think everybody on the panel said it, is we don't know what the benefit is. Because as opposed to, for example, extending north-south routes, would that be a better way to draw people in? You know, how many more people do you get by having buses go every 7 to 8 minutes as opposed to every 15 minutes? None of that's been explained. And so I think every business owner that's going to be affected is legitimately saying, gee, I don't really see the benefit in this. The short term is going to be an incredible cost. You know, why should we do this?
Interesting
I
there,
think
please.
an interesting point is that those other cities you mentioned, they do this after they have some other grounding stones. They have pro teams, they
yes.
have
That's right.
performing arts centers, and then they want to have things that will transport people and
point.
build around them.
Yep.
We don't have that in Albuquerque.
That's true
We
of
are
Pearls.
unlike
That's right.
the cities around us, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, some of those. There's a reason to have rapid transit. Going from restaurant to restaurant is not a reason.
Good point there. We'll pick this up again for sure. Thank you all. That's all the time we have, and we'll see you next time. I'm Gene Grant. Join us online for more information about the issues we discussed this week on New Mexico in Focus, and for links to our coverage for the People, Power, and Democracy Project. And as always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus. Get a preview of what's coming up on the next New Mexico in Focus. It's easy. Sign up for our weekly email at newmexicoinfocus.org.